I wasn't supposed to check my work phone after midnight anymore. That was the whole point of the new rule I'd made for myself. No more all-nighters for people who got paid to own me. My title said Site Reliability Engineer, but what it really meant was Designated Panic Absorber. That night, or technically morning, the apartment was dead quiet. Laptop shut, cat asleep on my chest, the world still enough to almost forget about uptime percentages and deployment deadlines. Then my phone buzzed once on the nightstand. A single vibration, the kind that doesn't feel urgent until you see the name. Boss, tout citoyen. Busy now, I'll explain later. No greeting, no context, just that. I stared at it for a good 10 seconds, my brain half fog, half reflex. The rational part of me said, ignore it. Nothing good happens after 2 a.m. But another part, the one trained to treat every message like an incident, started calculating. Busy now meant something was live. I'll explain later meant I wasn't supposed to ask questions. I'd seen this pattern before, a VP covering something they shouldn't be touching. A few months ago, the company rolled out a strict after-hours directive. No one could assign unscheduled work without logging it in the ticketing system. If someone broke the rule, protocol required the recipient to file an automatic escalation with compliance. The catch? Hardly anyone had the guts to actually do it, until me. So at 2:07 a.m., I typed exactly what the handbook said. Acknowledged. Initiating Sev 1 protocol per after-hours directive. Compliance CC'd for context. Then I hit send. For a few seconds, nothing happened. The screen stayed dim, soft blue light pulsing off my ceiling. Then 3 dots. He was typing. The reply came fast. Wait. Don't do that. It's not what you think. Another ping seconds later. Stop the protocol. I'll handle it. Just delete that message. I didn't. The rule was clear. Once an after-hours directive was logged, it automatically triggered a cascade. My reply had already woken the on-call bridge bot, a piece of automation that set up an incident channel, timestamped my response, and notified the compliance distribution list. By 2:09, the system went live. BridgeBot, incident channel created, GH7, unauthorized request, zoo.19. BridgeBot, participants invited, AME, ABOS, I infra on-call, I compliance, watchdog. My laptop, in the living room, chimed awake on its own. The monitor glowed like a quiet accusation. Another message popped up on my phone. For God's sake, cancel it. I was just moving a few files. Internal, not production. That's when I realized he was scared. Not annoyed. Scared. Because if it really was internal, he could have said so. But the tone in that text, that was someone who knew he'd tripped a wire. I swung my legs off the bed, padded barefoot to the desk, and opened the laptop. The incident channel was already filling with system chatter. Compliance bot. Timestamp confirmed. Record immutable. Infra on call. Who authorized this push at 0156? BridgeBot. Awaiting primary responder. I typed. Received unauthorized directive at Stokos from management. Logging per SOP. Then my phone lit up again. This time, an incoming call. Boss. I let it ring. It rang again and again. On the third attempt, I answered but said nothing. All I heard was breathing, then his voice, tight, forced calm. You don't understand. This isn't a Sev 1. This was a private deployment, okay? Something we were testing quietly. I need you to back out the escalation before it goes wider. His words came in short bursts, the sound of someone pacing. I could hear typing in the background, fast, frantic. Listen, I said, keeping my voice level. The log's immutable once it's filed. You know that. He exhaled hard. Do you want to tank both our jobs over this? That one hit a nerve. For years I'd eaten every guilt trip, every "you're part of the team" speech. But something in his tone, half threat, half desperation, flipped a switch in me. Protocol's protocol, I said. If it's clean, you'll be fine. There was silence on the line, long enough for the BridgeBot to post another update. BridgeBot. Ticket A23157 created under compliance review. Jesus Christ, he whispered. You actually did it. I just followed the rule you signed off on. The line went dead. By 2:10 a.m., my Slack feed exploded. Infra on call. Anyone know why legal's on this channel? Compliance bot. Evidence snapshot in progress. Bridge bot. Primary contact unresponsive. Initiating autocall sequence. A final text from him popped up before the phone dimmed again. Whatever you do, don't talk to them until I explain. I put the phone face down, watched the cursor blink in the incident log, and felt the strangest calm I'd had in months. The machine was already awake. The process couldn't be undone. Somewhere across town, my boss was realizing exactly what those 6 words, "Busy now, I'll explain later," had just cost him. And I hadn't even started typing my report yet. The compliance bridge opened with the kind of sterile efficiency that only corporate paranoia can produce. A flat, robotic voice announced every new arrival, every system log, every line of chat, as if narrating the slow-motion collision of 2 trains. Bridgebot, new participant joined, legal counsel. Bridgebot, new participant joined, 8th security audit. Within minutes, the sleepy infrastructure engineer, Priya, dropped into the call. Her voice was groggy but clear. Who triggered a Sev 1 at 2 a.m.? What's going on? I kept my tone steady. Got an unsanctioned directive from management. Followed after-hours protocol. There was a pause. Then a quiet, "Oh." She knew the policy. Everyone did. It was supposed to protect us from burnout and from abuse. But the truth was, nobody ever expected anyone to actually use it. Until tonight. In the background, I could hear faint typing. My boss was already in the chat, trying to reframe the narrative. Boss. False alarm, folks. No active incident. Just a test gone wrong. Please disregard. Compliance bot. Clarification required. Source directive issued from management account at O2, BMARS. No corresponding ticket in system. Boss. Yeah, I said it was internal. Testing out a new sync script, not production data. Legal counsel. If internal, please provide test approval ID. No response. Then another message, typed slower this time. Boss. Look, this is just noise. Kill the bot and we'll handle it manually. But you can't kill the bot. It's tied to the incident chain. The moment I logged the escalation, every connected system went into audit mode. Read-only recorded, mirrored. Even deleting a message would leave a trace. I could almost picture him at his home office, shirt half-buttoned, hair wild, eyes darting between monitors as the realization set in. He'd triggered something he couldn't silence. Security audit. Reviewing logs from 0150s R210. Detecting outbound data transfer from MGMT laptop to external domain. Security audit. Destination address, contractorsync.io. That name made my stomach tighten. Contractor Sync was a vendor we'd blacklisted 3 months ago for non-compliance. I glanced at the chat. No one else typed. You could feel the tension even through text. Legal counsel. Boss, confirm authorization for data exchange with that domain? His reply came almost instantly. Boss, that's not me. Must be some old credential cached in the system. I leaned back in my chair, lying and writing, while on a compliance-monitored call. That wasn't desperation anymore. That was suicide. Compliance bot. Reminder. This bridge is recorded. Transcript stored in a mutable archive. There it was, the polite death sentence of corporate misconduct. At 2:34 a.m., the situation shifted from awkward to surgical. Security began running live queries. Legal stayed silent except for one short command. Freeze all write permissions on management accounts. The cursor blinked once. Bridgebot. Write permissions revoked for boss. And that's when his voice cut in on the audio channel. Loud, unmuted, raw. Do you people have any idea what you're doing? This is a misunderstanding. I said it was a drill. Someone from security, calm as a surgeon. You can clarify at 9 with HR present. Right now, we're preserving state. Preserving? Jesus Christ, you can't just... His voice cracked, and the mic went dead again. I stayed quiet, said nothing. My cursor hovered over the notes field, documenting every timestamp, every message, every deviation. It wasn't about revenge anymore. It was about procedure, about making sure that if he tried to drag anyone down, the paper trail would hold. Infra on call. Me, can you confirm original directive time? 02 now on the dot, I replied. Message text. Busy now, I'll explain later. There was a collective exhale on the line. Everyone understood what that meant. A standing order, not a request. A command issued outside working hours. No ticket, no record. That's the kind of thing that destroys entire departments. Legal counsel. Amy, please forward the screenshot of the text message. I did. No commentary. Just the evidence. For the next 30 minutes, the bridge was a digital autopsy. Commands, confirmations, silent observers joining from departments I'd never even interacted with. Every so often, I'd see another name appear. VP Infrastructure. CISO. Audit. Each one meant another layer of reality closing in around him. By 3:05 a.m., the tone shifted again. Security audit. Found evidence of data transfer labeled Compliance Sync, initiated manually from Boss laptop. Legal counsel. Copying this thread to regulatory compliance, external counsel. And that was the moment he tried to pin it on me. Boss. This entire mess started because my name overreacted. I told him to wait. He's been unstable lately, burned out, probably hallucinating issues that don't exist. You all know he's been struggling. There it was. The last refuge of every abuser in a suit. Question the sanity of the person who finally says no. Before I could reply, Priya spoke up. Boss, with respect, the log shows your message first. Time-stamped. Immutable. You told him, quote, busy now, I'll explain later. No ambiguity there. Silence. A small, metallic kind of silence that feels like the moment before a guillotine falls. Then, legal counsel. At security. Lock Aber Boss out of all privileged systems until further notice. Click. Bridgebot. Access revoked for Boss. That was it. The sound of a career evaporating in text form. At 3:28 a.m., legal ended the session. All right, we'll convene again at 9 sharp. No external communications until notified. The bridge went quiet, one name after another leaving the call until only me and the bot remained. Bridgebot. Session archived. Transcript saved to Compliance, Vault A0219. The clock on my screen ticked over to 3:30 a.m. Somewhere across the city, my boss's laptop had just locked him out of his own system. And I, the burned-out engineer, sat in a dark apartment watching the cursor blink in a chat window that had just rewritten our power dynamic. I closed the lid. The cat stirred, and for the first time in 2 years, I slept like a man who finally stopped apologizing for following the rules. The next thing I remember was the faint gray hint of dawn pressing through the blinds. My phone was still buzzing across the desk, the screen lighting up every few seconds with missed calls, messages, system alerts. Somewhere between sleep and awareness, I realized the bridge hadn't really closed. It had gone quiet. That kind of silence is dangerous in a company like ours. It means the real conversations had moved to private channels. Legal, HR, executive. I rubbed my eyes, cracked my neck, and checked Slack. The channel, Sev 1, unauthorized request 219, was locked, read only. Across the top, a banner glowed crimson. Status. Escalation under internal investigation. All communication restricted. Below it, a single new line from the bot. Bridgebot. So 357. Compliance review initiated. Evidence chain verified. I scrolled further and found one private DM waiting for me. From legal counsel. Morning, please don't delete any correspondence related to this incident. HR and security will schedule a debrief. You've done everything correctly so far. We'll handle it from here. That last line, "we'll handle it from here," should have calmed me, but it didn't. In our world, that phrase meant one of two things. Either you're safe, or you've just stepped into a political minefield, and they're clearing the path before the explosion. At 4:06 a.m., the company VPN disconnected automatically. My access reset mid-scroll. Then an email came through my personal account from the same compliance officer. Temporary administrative leave with pay effective immediately. Standard procedure during active investigations. Do not access company systems until contacted by HR. I leaned back, stared at the words, and let out a breath I hadn't realized I'd been holding. Paid leave. That meant one of two things. Either they were shielding me, or they were deciding how deep the hole went before naming names. Across town, I imagined my boss doing the same thing, except his screen wouldn't say leave with pay. It would say access revoked. I checked the time again, 4:12 a.m. The apartment was still dark except for the faint reflection of the streetlight across the window. My laptop pinged again, this time a system alert that shouldn't have gone through if my access was frozen. It was a mirror copy from Security's archive node. Security audit. Evidence vault, Marwan1 upload complete. File path, mgmt, priv, local transfer.zip. User, aboss. They'd found the payload. I double-clicked the log attachment before it could disappear. Inside was a time-stamped list of file hashes, hundreds of them. Client data, configuration snapshots, license keys, all zipped and renamed under a folder titled Consulting Expenses 2025. It wasn't just a violation, it was theft. I sat still, pulse slow but steady, as the reality pieced itself together. He hadn't been testing anything. He was siphoning production data into his personal cloud repository, probably to feed a side contract he'd been running under the radar. The "busy now" text hadn't been an accident. It had been a command to cover his tracks before the sync finished. The irony hit me like cold water. The compliance system he'd helped design had just caught him red-handed. A faint vibration buzzed against the desk. A message. Unknown number. "You happy now? You have no idea what you started." No name, but I didn't need one. The punctuation, no period, no structure, was his signature chaos. "You did this to yourself," I typed back. "They found your transfer." 3 dots appeared, then vanished. He was still there, somewhere in the dark, watching the fallout unfold and realizing it couldn't be stopped. At 4:30 a.m., another email came in, this one CC'd to me by mistake. A thread between security and HR. Subject, urgent, offboarding sequence initiated. MD. Badge access disabled. Device retrieval scheduled. 09 Bourge. Confirm escort? So it was official. He was done. I closed the laptop and just sat there for a while, listening to the hum of the refrigerator and the faint creak of the radiator, the kind of silence that feels like a verdict. I'd imagined this moment differently, maybe louder, maybe vindicating, but the truth is it didn't feel like triumph. It felt clean, like a reset, then another buzz. An internal email forwarded to my personal inbox by someone anonymous. From CFO to Executive Ops, Legal, HR. If what security found is accurate, we'll need to report to the federal regulator by end of business. Ensure our internal whistleblower protections are extended to the reporting engineer. No retaliation, no statements until verified. Whistleblower. The word looked strange next to my name. I hadn't thought of myself that way. I wasn't trying to make a point. I just followed the rule. At 5:02 a.m., I brewed coffee, stood by the window, and watched the first pale hint of sunrise turn the sky silver blue. The street below was empty. Across the glass, my reflection looked tired, older, but calm. Somewhere in that same city, my boss was probably sitting in his car, rehearsing the lies that wouldn't save him, watching his badge blink red at the office door, and maybe, for the first time, realizing what accountability actually felt like. As for me, I opened a new document on my personal laptop and began typing up my version of the report. Not for HR, not for compliance, but for myself. Because at the end of the day, I didn't want revenge. I wanted proof that I hadn't imagined it, that I wasn't crazy for thinking I deserved to be treated like a person instead of a disposable alert system. When I finished, I saved the file as ozot bis 99txt and closed the lid. By the time the world fully woke up, the emails would be flying, the board would be whispering, and his name would be trending inside every Slack workspace we had. But for now, in the quiet hour before daylight, I finally felt like I could breathe again. He'd texted busy now. I'll explain later. And by sunrise, there was nothing left for him to explain. By the time I reached the office, the building didn't feel like the same place I'd left the night before. The parking lot was half empty, the usual chatter near the coffee station replaced by a kind of electric hush. The kind of silence that only happens after a storm, when everyone knows something exploded, but no one wants to admit they saw it. My access badge still worked. That alone told me everything I needed to know. I wasn't the one under investigation. At reception, security guards I'd never seen before stood near the elevators. Not subtle, but not theatrical either. Their radios crackled occasionally, short and coded. "Morning," I said, scanning my badge. "Morning," the guard replied, expression neutral. "HR conference room, 4th floor. They're expecting you." The elevator ride felt endless. Every ding sounded like a pulse. When the doors opened, HR was waiting. 2 people I'd only ever seen during annual compliance briefings, both with folders in their hands. Behind them, a third figure I recognized immediately. Legal counsel, the same voice from the night before. Now calm and deliberate in daylight. "Come in, have a seat," she said. Her tone wasn't warm, but it wasn't hostile either. It was the sound of someone about to close a file. On the table sat a slim black binder, labeled Incident Report 0219. I didn't need to open it. I'd written half of it already. The legal rep started. "First, thank you for your cooperation last night. We've concluded the preliminary review. Before we proceed, I need to confirm that you followed the after-hours protocol exactly as written." "I did," I said. "Word for word." She nodded once as if she'd expected nothing less. "Good. The investigation verified your timestamp, message log, and the automated escalation trail. Everything checks out. You acted within policy and in good faith." HR took over. The man across from me cleared his throat. "As of this morning, your supervisor's employment has been terminated for cause. We are cooperating with external authorities. Regarding data misuse, you are officially listed as the reporting employee under whistleblower protection." The words landed without drama. No gloating, no applause. Just a formal, quiet execution of justice. They slid a small folder toward me. Inside was a letter printed on company stationery. Notice of protected leave and retention bonus. To ensure your well-being during the ongoing investigation, you are granted 3 weeks of paid leave. Upon return, you will be reassigned to a different reporting line. Your annual retention bonus has been advanced. I stared at the line that mattered most. Protected leave. It was corporate speak, for we can't say it out loud, but you were right. "Anything else I should do?" I asked. Legal shook her head. "No, but I'll give you one piece of advice. Don't talk to anyone about this. Internally or externally. Let the record speak for itself. You did your job. Now let the system do its part." I nodded. Understood. As I stood to leave, the HR rep added softly, almost human for the first time. "For what it's worth, most people wouldn't have had the guts. That stopped me." I looked back at him, tried to smile, but it came out more like an exhale. It wasn't guts, just procedure. He half smiled. Sometimes that's the same thing. Outside the glass walls of the conference room, I caught sight of him, or what was left of him. My former boss, escorted by 2 security officers, walking down the hall with his laptop and a sealed evidence bag and his badge already clipped to the envelope. His face was pale, eyes unfocused, moving as if in a trance. He saw me. For a second our eyes met through the glass. No words, no gestures, just a flicker of recognition, the silent understanding of two men standing on opposite sides of the same firewall. He looked away, first. The guards led him through the turnstile, and the elevator doors swallowed him whole. Just like that, he was gone. The rest of the day unfolded in strange slow motion. Emails pinged with carefully sanitized corporate language. We thank Name for his contributions and wish him the best in his future endeavors. The digital obituary of every disgraced executive. I forwarded nothing, replied to no one. Just packed my things, a coffee mug, a photo of the cat, a USB drive filled with personal notes, and logged out for what might have been the last time. When I got back home, the afternoon light had turned warm and amber, painting the apartment in a calm I hadn't felt in months. The cat jumped onto the desk and curled up next to the closed laptop. I poured myself a drink, not to celebrate, just to mark the moment. Then, as habit demanded, I opened my phone and scrolled through old messages. The last one from him still sat there, unsent into oblivion. Busy now, I'll explain later. I stared at it for a long time, then archived the thread, because there was nothing left to explain. That night, around 10 p.m., I logged into Slack one last time from my personal account. Read-only guest access they'd left active for transparency. The Sev1 unauthorized request 02199 channel was closed, sealed, archived, but at the bottom a single automated line remained. Bridgebot, incident resolved. Controls worked as designed. I read it twice. It didn't sound triumphant. It sounded final. I closed the browser, leaned back in my chair, and let the silence fill the room. Because sometimes justice doesn't arrive with sirens or applause. Sometimes it's just a bot message at the bottom of a chat, quietly reminding you that the system you built, the one no one respected, actually worked, and that, for once, was enough.